The Florida Gators should go and hire Ran Carthon to be part of their new front office.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free reviews on the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Wednesday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, whether you win or lose. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And the Florida Gators, we talked about this 2 days ago, that the Florida Gators are looking to add to their front office. They already have Jacob LaFrance as a general manager, but they are looking for someone who is more cap-oriented, more about the roster-building process. And Ran Carthon, Florida Gator, got fired by the Tennessee Titans yesterday. Fired for just absolute nonsense. That's a piece of trash organization. If you're a Titans fan, I'm very sorry because your team's going to suck for a very long time. Ran Carthon nailed 2 first-round picks on the offensive line. Only bad pick really was Will Levis. They got Tajay Spears. They got T'Vondre Sweat. They nailed the draft for the most part, right? But again, that's not what Florida's looking to add. They're looking to add someone who is capable of handling contract negotiations, capable of handling the contracts themselves, and treating this football team as if they are operating with a legitimate salary cap, because you kind of are, right? The football team now is going to have roughly $20.5 million to spend starting July 21st, 2025, or July 1st, 2025. And so they're going to have a basically salary cap. They're going to be dealing with that. Ran Carthon with the Tennessee Titans did a pretty good job, in my opinion, of getting these contracts set up so that the Tennessee Titans could get out of those contracts if they don't like them. They weren't overpaying for bad players. They weren't overpaying for positions that aren't considered premium positions. No. They were building the team to find success for the future. Unfortunately, the owner sucks. It's horrible. But Ran Carthon is now available. And again, as a former Florida Gator, you would think, or a Florida Gator, you don't have to say former, right? As a Florida Gator, you would think, hey, Ran Carthon might be a good name to add, right? And as far as bringing in someone with experience being an actual NFL general manager, as we have consistently said, college football is taking steps toward being the NFL, toward becoming the NFL, right? It's, hey, we've got these scholarship NIL contracts. We got to deal with all this, and we got to put together this team using the draft, aka high school recruiting, and free agency, aka the transfer portal. So you're trying to build this team with all of that. And bringing in a guy that has done that at the NFL level, and in my opinion, did it at a pretty high level. I think Ran Carthon was given just the short end of the stick by an idiot that owns the team and an idiot that runs the team. I think he was given the short end of the stick. I think they drafted well. I think the contracts that they signed were not bad. And he's available, right? And I love the idea of bringing in a Florida Gator to do the job. And let me say this. I'm a big fan of bringing in qualified Florida Gators. Okay? That's the big difference, because we often talk about, oh, this guy's available. This guy just got fired. This guy just got this. This guy just got that. And he's a Florida Gator. I'm sorry. I love that process, like in terms of feeling great. But in terms of being successful, it takes more than that. Okay? And so I'm a big fan of bringing in qualified Florida Gators. And Ran Carthon is as qualified as they get, right? The reason he got hired as the general manager of the Tennessee Titans is because he's done such a good job throughout his career of helping build rosters. And then he was given the job to build the roster. So this isn't some position coach that went to Florida, got fired, and now everyone's like, oh, just go bring him in. He's a Gator. Because the thought behind that, of course, is not just, oh, they're Gators. Let's bring him in because I like him. It's you are a Florida Gator alum. You probably want to see the Florida Gators win more than any other random person that might get hired, right? And so you bring in someone who is willing to work their absolute behind off to be great. And I like it when they're qualified, and Ran Carthon is as qualified as they come. Again, I know that Florida's spoken to at least 4 candidates that we all spoke about on Monday's episode of Locked On Gators. We talked about all of them and my opinion of them. Ran Carthon automatically goes to the top of the list, okay? Ran Carthon passes everyone. And again, I think that the big reason for that is because he was genuinely good at his job, in my opinion. He had one bad draft pick, and it was Will Levis. And even then, that's because there was pressure to take a quarterback, and Will Levis was always going to be high risk, high reward. But again, that's the risk part, right? You're bringing in a guy that sucks, and you're hoping he develops to be something great. There was always risk there, and honestly, the bigger issue is hiring Brian Callahan, but that would have nothing to do with Ran Carthon here. So when we talk about what they should do, it's that you should at the absolute least kick the tires. Just give Ran a phone call and say, hey, man, what are your plans now that you're fired by the idiots? Because I will say, I think there's a higher likelihood for Ran Carthon that Ran Carthon is thinking, hey, I'm going to look for an NFL front office job. I think there's a pretty good likelihood that that's what he's hoping to do. Whether or not it's something that he'll actually be able to do, we'll see. Because also we know how this goes. You know, you get fired and all of a sudden no one wants to hire you for a couple of years, whatever it may be. But if you can give Ran Carthon a call and convince him, say, hey, you can come here where we are finally seemingly investing in the program, and you can come help build this team and get this team right. We're having a conversation about, hey, you can probably get an NFL job right after this if you want to. I'm fine bringing in a guy and saying, hey, if you're going to be here for 2 or 3 years and look for the NFL, go ahead. Why not? Everybody gets replaced, right? Everybody moves on at some point, right? But Ran Carthon should be the guy that you give a call to and you say, hey, you did a damn good job. You got screwed because you have an idiot above you. Come be the general manager of the Florida Gators or whatever title you want to give them. Come be that for the Florida Gators, and let's go win some games. Let's go win a national championship. Let's go out there and just go balls to the wall and do it. Okay? The Florida Gators lost a transfer portal commit yesterday. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Gators. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Because guess what? It happened to this guy. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. And it's not just subscriptions, right? You can go in there and you can link your bank account. You can link all your credit cards there, and it'll tell you the difference between your bank account and the credit cards. You can look at your credit score in there. You could do basically freaking anything in there, okay? I'm telling you, it's a damn good app, all right? Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And sometimes we're available 2 times a day, like yesterday, where we had our normal show. And then after the Florida Gators and Tennessee game, we went live after that as well. But also yesterday during the day, there was some news that Adrian Maddox flipped. And for those who don't know, on Sunday night, Adrien Maddox, a UAB DB, committed to Florida. Okay, this was mostly a Florida and Georgia battle. By the way, if you're a Miami fan watching this for whatever gotcha moment you got, go ahead. You're an idiot. Thanks for the view. But Adrien Maddox initially committed to Florida on Sunday night. And while we were live on Sunday, I forgot who it was, but someone put in the chat, Billy Napier did the thing on a Sunday night. And my response was, actually, Billy Napier hasn't done the thing yet on a Sunday night, which was interesting and maybe a telling sign of how things were trending, or maybe a telling sign of what was going on with the recruitment. But Adrien Maddox committed. Billy Napier never sent the sunglasses. He never did the thing. Important. Then yesterday morning, reports came out that Georgia was still pursuing Adrien Maddox. And then a few hours later, I think it was Hayes Fawcett was the one that tweeted it, that Adrien Maddox had flipped his commitment to Georgia. And then things got even weirder, because why the hell wouldn't they get any weirder, right? But Pete Thamel, because we've had conflicting reports since that initially came out, since that all started. But Pete Thamel tweeted that on Tuesday night, he said, or on Tuesday during the day, he said Adrien Maddox signed with Georgia last night, meaning that Adrien Maddox signed with Georgia on Monday night. And then for some reason, we had to go through this whole thing on Tuesday of like, oh, they're trying to get him. Up, they're still pushing. Up, he flipped. I don't know what the hell that was, but it felt like a giant waste of time, right? But so we get Pete Thamel saying that. And then I forgot who it was. But we also had reports that, hey, Florida's still pursuing him. How's that going? So I don't know what's actually going on with it. We will hopefully get an actual answer at some point in the coming days. If Florida's still pursuing him, I wouldn't personally. And look, I know that a bunch of Florida Gators fans did this, and I know that I got comments and tweets at me saying that I would do this, where they go, oh, all of a sudden they're going to say, oh, he's not that good. He's not a take. He's not this. He's not that. I will say this about Adrien Maddox. I like his film. I was very open on Sunday when he committed initially that I liked his film. I did not hide that. I never hide that. And I am not the type of host, analyst, reporter, however you think of me. I am not the type that's going to change my opinion because it could win somewhere else. I've been very open about kids when I think they're good players and they come to Florida, and when I don't think they're good players and they come to Florida, and when I think they're good players and they go somewhere else. I've been very open about all that. Adrien Maddox is a good football player, in my opinion. I think he'll translate well to the SEC. I don't have much doubt about that. I think he's a pretty good football player, like I've said multiple times. But there are very few, if any, players that I'm willing to say is worth all of this wishy-washy, snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap, bullcrap, nonsense, whatever you want to call it. There are very few players that I'm willing to say are worth that. It's just, to me, just doesn't make any sense. I hate it personally. I get it. You know, you get your engagement from both fan bases and you get all that, and sure, totally makes a ton of sense, I guess. If you think that does, then whatever. I just don't care for it. But my stance with portal kids is that it's very different if we're talking about a high school recruit that has years-long recruiting, months-long recruiting, whatever it may be. It's very different if we're talking about that with a high school recruit. It's very different to me if we're talking about a transfer kid who commits early in the process but doesn't sign, and then a month later is still taking visits, whatever it may be, and then wants to flip. Those are different, right? But we're talking about someone who has not been recruited long-term by these programs, who signed somewhere or committed somewhere on Sunday night, reportedly signed with a different place on Monday night. And then on Tuesday, we had to sit through the whole, he's still getting pursued by Georgia. He might flip. He's flipping, all that stuff. And then it's like, oh, maybe Florida still, all that bullcrap. It's just not worth it over the course of a few days. So when I look at that, I say, hey, just call it a day, move on. I don't care if he signs somewhere. I don't care if you still want. At that point, it's just not worth that wishy-washy bullcrap, right? He's a good football player. He is. And I'm not knocking him at all. I'm just knocking the process of, hey, okay, he committed to you. He flipped somewhere else he flipped your biggest rival a couple days later. Just leave it. It's not worth it for a depth player. It's just not. And a portal player, like I said, that you haven't been recruiting for a long time. It seems like just a waste of resources. Like, just no one cares at this point. Go get someone else in the portal or go figure something else out. But let's just stop wasting time with someone who's going to essentially just jerk you around, right? Stop wasting time there. But there is someone that I think the Florida Gators should spend their time and not have it wasted. Fun there. But there is someone that the Florida Gators should pursue in the transfer portal that we'll talk about when we get back with Locked On Gators. To wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators, we are talking about a player that we talked about last year in the transfer portal. You can go back to see what I said then, but December 4th, 2023. So I'll give you the date. I have the notes in my Google Drive. But December 4th, 2023, I said that the Florida Gators, I said that I thought the Florida Gators should pursue Texas Tech offensive tackle Monroe Mills. And I said they should pursue him hard. Like that was my point on it, was Monroe Mills, damn good offensive lineman. You should go get him. He eventually committed to Louisville and is now back in the portal for one more year of hopefully really good film before going to the NFL. And Monroe Mills is a 3-year starter, 2 years at Texas Tech, and then this past year at Louisville. And in that time, he has been on the field for over 1,300 pass blocking snaps. Okay? In those 3 years, over 1,300 pass blocking snaps. In those 1,300 pass blocking snaps, 4 sacks. That's what, every 325 passing down snaps he allows a sack? That's pretty good. I don't know if you know that. And in 2024, and here's one of the things as well. He was at Texas Tech, then went to Louisville, and part of it was to go face better pass rushers, right? Because again, when you're an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman of any sort, and you're trying to put out good film for the NFL and better film, you want to go up against better defensive linemen, better rushers, right? So he leaves Texas Tech, goes to Louisville. Guess what he did? Stellar freaking year. Again, 1 sack allowed in 2024. 7 pressures allowed in 2024. 7 pressures. That's what? 0.6 pressures allowed per game? That's pretty freaking good. I don't know if you know that. That's really good. And he faced some really good defensive lines, right? He faced, and I'm only bringing them up because they were an SEC team, but he faced Kentucky's defensive line, which, by the way, pretty good defensive line, right? But he faced Kentucky's defensive line. SEC team. Destroyed. 0 pressures. 0. Goose egg. Okay? He faced Notre Dame's defensive line. They are presently in the college football playoff, one of the Final 4 teams. And he played Clemson, who is in the ACC championship. Won the ACC championship. Lost the college football playoff. And in those 3 games, Notre Dame, Clemson, Kentucky, combined 3 pressures. Again, 0 against Kentucky, against an SEC opponent. So Notre Dame, Clemson, 3 combined pressures. 2 college football playoff teams that are defensively built through dominating in the trenches. And he allowed 3 pressures. Yeah, go get him, right? The Florida Gators are looking to replace Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, who they got in the transfer portal last year out of San Diego State. They also got Devin Manuel out of the transfer portal last year from Arkansas. He's been mostly depth, and the expectation, at least from me, is that he's going to fight or compete for a starting spot. And that's fine. But I prefer going for finished products, more proven products, whatever you want to say, more proven productive players, whatever you want to call it. I prefer to go for that in the transfer portal. And I think that Monroe Mills is that. You can bring in Monroe Mills and say, hey, you've got your 1 year in the SEC now to do it. Your 1 year to come in the SEC, compete, put out good film, and then go to the NFL. Now's the time to do it. You can bring him in while still saying, hey, Austin Barber's going to start, Devin Manuel, earn playing time. Compete with one of them and earn playing time. Or, leave. That's another option as well. But if you're the Florida Gators and you've now got another scholarship that we had accounted for as Adrian Maddox now opened up, you still need an offensive tackle. You still need, in my opinion, a defensive tackle. You still need, in my opinion, an edge rusher. You're not going to get everything that we're talking about. But if you can go out there and get some of what we're talking about, you can go out there and get just some elite talent, some starter quality talent, SEC starter quality talent, you can get that. Then we're having a conversation about this championship window that you're in. Remember, the championship window right now is the next 2 years. I'm not going to say it's when Will Griffin gets here that it's extended. We don't know what Will Griffin's going to look like. But we know what DJ Lagway looks like. And we know your championship window with DJ Lagway is the next 2 years. Go get Monroe Mills, go make your team better, and go elevate your floor for 2025 and make this team that much closer to a national championship contender. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.